All right, hey everybody. As promised, I'm going to give you a quick rundown on how these plasma cutters are, how they work in terms of tearing them down, what to look for, and why not to mix and match stuff. First thing that I want to point out is if you're ever in doubt as to what parts should go with the action that you're doing, because you actually got the ability to gouge, which this has a gouge shield on it, but we'll get to that in a second. So you can gouge and then you can cut. And the way to know that, I particularly like this with these Hypertherms, if you look on the top of the machine, it gives you all of the parts that you need, right? And some of them are duplicate, like all of these are the same, but when you start getting into different operations, so like gouging and cutting, they use different types of consumables. Now the electrodes are the same, but notice here where they have different amperages. Okay, so depending on the machine that you're using. So we've got a 65. What do we got here? We got a 45, a 65, and an 85. So you got to make sure you're using the right parts. I'm going to expand on that in just a second. So we talked about the components, and I said that these 65s you can remove them, which is nice. In order to take this whip off of here, you just push this red button. You push in a little bit, push the red button, then pull it out. But make sure when you put it back that it's always firmly secured, because if it isn't in tight, then it's not going to, the machine won't turn on. This is your work lead, right? Now here in the shop, I'm in the very far booth down here in the weld shop, and so you've got, it all comes around back. You've got your power on and off, and when you're working on the machine, or if you're not actually using it, it's always a good idea if you can just turn the power off. Obviously your air source is here. Turn that guy off when you're not using it, when you're done. So here's your handle. And what we've got here is, so this is the trigger that I was talking to you about. I know it's a little jerky. We'll try to keep this a little steadier, as steady as I can. So this one you got to flip up before you can pull the trigger. Okay. It should be spring loaded. The spring's actually broken on this one, so we'll get that addressed. But notice I can't push that down until this is flipped up. Then I can activate it. Okay. So I'm going to try and do this. I'm going to switch hands here because I'm better with the right hand than I am with the left. So what we've got here is we've got a gouge nozzle. We got this the gouging shield on this side. But I'm going to take this off. Put that guy there. If you look at the shape of this guy here. The actual nozzle. That's not right. A gouge nozzle looks like this. They're a different shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear this torch down, take all these parts off of it, show you what each one is, and then put it back together with the proper consumables. And I'm going to show you something else too. Start by taking this guy off, collar. Oh, while I'm here, take all this stuff out of here. This little button that you see right there, it makes contact with this as you thread it on. If you actually have the machine turned on and you take this off and you start to disassemble this, the machine will go into an error code, and it doesn't matter, even if you put it all back together, you have to turn the machine off and on again before you can use it. It's a safety feature, just so, to make sure you don't electrocute yourself, burn yourself, or what have you. So I'm going to set this up here where it's nice and safe for a second. There's nothing else. The only thing that you could deal with this is this O-ring, but as long as you're using the right consumables and you're not being rammy with it, and you keep this relatively clean, this O-ring lasts quite a while. So here's our parts. Okay. So we have swirl ring, electrode, nozzle, we've got our guard or our shield, and then we've got the collar. These collars, in a similar fashion, this one's got some wear on it, still perfectly functional. As long as it isn't broken, as long as all the parts on the inside are clean, you really don't have to replace this very often. The actual real consumable pieces are the shield, the electrode, and the nozzle. These are the ones that get confused all the time and you put the wrong pieces in. And like I said, this actually has a gouge shield on it when it should actually have a cutting shield, or what's known as a drag shield. That's this guy here. This is what's known as your swirl ring. It only goes on one way. If you try to put it on the other way, it won't go. All right. So we'll start with, just when you're doing this, just have a quick look at the swirl ring. Again, doesn't see a lot of abuse. Only if it gets really bad or if it gets really burnt. You can reuse these. They don't have to reuse these a lot. There's your swirl ring. Then our electrode. So this electrode is actually all used up. In the presentation, I talked about the little tungsten on the inside. If you look closely, you can still see it, but it's very deep. It's got like there's a really deep recess in here, which means that it hasn't been abused, but it's been used to the point where this can still be used, but it's not going to give you a very accurate cut. So if you're finding you're getting a lot of dross, or your kerf is getting big, or your lines aren't straight, like the lines on your cut aren't straight, they start to curve, or they're very erratic, it's probably your electrode. Will it still work? Absolutely. If you're just trying to cut something off, or it's not very important, this would be one that I would actually put back in my toolbox. And if I was doing some really abusive work or hack work where I just need to cut something up, I'd use this guy, so I'm not using that good stuff. That guy in here. So this guy here, this is the nozzle. If you look closely at the hole there, if it'll zoom in, this hole is really oblong. Now, one of the reasons it's like that is because they were using the wrong shield on it. They had this guy on it, they're not using the right shield, and so the arc isn't in the right position to where it needs to cut properly. So it's not giving you the best arc, and so it's wearing it out. They do wear as well, just in time and in use. Not a big deal, but as that wears out, again, your cut's going to get less accurate, you're going to get more dross, and it's not going to look as nice. But again, this is something that I would use if I was doing something really, abusive, when I was just trying to hack something up and just trying to get rid of it and just trying to cut something up, you throw in a scrap bin, or I just had to hack something off, I'd use this guy. This one here, that should be round. Hold on, zoom in there. Come on, there it is. Right? That's now oblong because it's not being used properly. When you're gouging, you're not making contact with your material. You're actually not, so it's not supposed to touch. So what's happening is this is getting really hot and they're dragging along the material and it's oblonging the hole. We're going to keep this guy. We've already got our swirl ring in there. Now we're going to get a new electrode. Right? New electrode. Nice, shiny, not recessed. You can see that little bit of tungsten in the very tip of it. That's going to be a shiny new tip, and that's what that's supposed to look like. Put that guy in there. Nice and gentle. Now we're going to get a new nozzle. Again, note the shape of the nozzle. See how it's got a taper to it? Also, if in doubt, look at the part number. It says 65 amp. What type of machine is this? It's a PowerMax 65. So you know that this is the right one. There's all kinds of different models of machines. Like we got these ones here. This is for a 60, a 60. Note the shape, not the same. Will it fit on this? Yes, it will. Will it work? No, it won't. So now we're going to take this guy. Okay. I'm going to put that on there and hold on to this very carefully. Switch back over here. Hold this. Notice it's spring loaded. It does move up and down a very small amount. Okay, it does move up and down a very small amount. That's okay, that's what you want. Now I'm going to put my collar on. Thread it on. Right? Perfect. You can see the 65 amp. Like I planned it. But I didn't. So here's another mistake that people make. This is actually supposed to be used for when you're not making any contact, when you're not cutting, when you're not using it to, like using the plasma cutter, the actual plasma table. Okay. If you put this collar on here and then try to cut, as soon as this tip touches your material, it's going to short out. It actually, it doesn't short out in terms of damage, but it does take the cutting power and like put it in half. So so you're not supposed to use those. You shouldn't use those guys when you're just cutting. If you're going to just simply cut and stay above your material and not touch the material, you're fine. But if you're doing this, sure. But the one you're supposed to use is this guy. Notice the 4 little steps, right? These 4 little spots here, they hold just enough space between your plasma here and your material. Spin this guy on and watch what happens. Get this to zoom in properly. If you look, there's a very tiny gap between the tip and the drag cut. It's not very big, but it's there. Okay? There's a gap there. That's what's going to make sure this thing cuts properly. Pay attention as you use it, because if you get material stuck in there, it will short out and then it'll stop cutting properly. All you do is take this back off. All you do, take this guy back off, clean it out, take a wire brush or what have you, clean the material off of it. You should do that every now and then. Make sure there's nothing in there. Put it back on, and you're ready to go. Okay? Now, if I were to be gouging, if I wanted to gouge with this, take this off. That off. I have to drop it down into the bottom of there. All I have to do is take this guy off, put a gouging tip on. Looks different, right? That guy. Electrode's the same, swirl wing's the same. Then take my, put the collar back on. Then put my gouging shield on. Again, notice the size of the hole. It's a significantly larger hole. Why? Because it's meant to gouge, not cut. It's meant to do things like remove material, like gouging out a weld, or not cutting through something entirely. Like that's what that's intended for. So if I try to do this, I leave my gouging tip on, my drag cup on. Oh, there it goes. Oh. It doesn't even want to go on. It's touching. Right? It doesn't even want. So just make sure the parts match. Put this back to cutting. Collar. There we go. Okay. Now this guy's ready to go. How do I know? Turn my air on. Turn the power on. Power's in the back. Let it cycle all the way to 65 amps. Well, let's say I'm only going to cut 1/4 inch material. If I'm going to cut 1/4 inch material, I'm going to cut 1/4 inch material, I'm going to go down to about 37, between 35 and 40 amps. Okay. So if you pull the trigger, it will continue to run air and cool off your consumables for about 10 or 15 seconds, and then it'll shut off. Okay. It'll turn off on its own. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I was going to show you this. So, you're cutting. Now you turn it off. Like I said earlier, watch what happens. I'm going to spin this off. Watch what happens. Little yellow light comes on. Right? I've taken this off because it's the release that button. I've threaded it back on. Right? It's threaded back on. Light's still on. So what do I got to do? Turn it off. Turn it on again. Back in business. Okay? There you go. That's how these machines work. That's how the consumables are put together. Whenever you're using these torch bays, whenever you're using these cutting bays, it's always a good idea just to double check and make sure the consumables are right. And if they're not, just ask your prof to get you the right parts. And these are kept in the MIG cabinet. Right? Thanks, guys. Have a great day.